Well, good morning everybody. It's 6th of November 2025. That's not. It's the 6th of November 2024. Day after the presidential elections. It's a damp day, a little bit misty. So what better thing to do to blow away the cobwebs than to have a walk in the country. Now, I'm probably talking to myself here because for the last 10 months, 11 months, I've tried to set up a YouTube channel. What happened, my job, my contract finished. I worked for a local council. I really enjoyed the work. It was particularly nice work for me. I've been doing it for some time and doing, I think, a pretty reasonable job, but unfortunately budget cuts, etc. And I know I was expensive because I'm experienced. So anyway, I think the council finally realised that they could get away with just putting somebody into a position that just filled the position. They didn't need to have experience, therefore they weren't that expensive. You can't blame them. Anyway, I had a bit of time on my hands and I thought, I know, I'll start a YouTube channel. So I spent 10 or 11 months. I've tried absolutely everything you can think of. I've done news stories, not good. I've done profiles on the royals, moderate, various things. I've even done some children's channels, some how-to. I've tried everything. And you know what's really disappointing is when you put your video up and you wake up the next morning full of excitement and you think, I know, I'll go and look at my video, see how it's doing. And you find you've got 6 views. Six views. And you start to think, well, are people just not interested in what I've got to offer? Or what? And I think I've narrowed it down because I've watched literally hundreds of videos about how to do YouTube. And, you know, everyone's got a theory. Everyone's got a technique. But I think, to be honest, a lot of it is just pure luck. When you look at some of these channels, they go on and on and on and on for a long time before they actually achieve any sort of decent viewing figures or subscribers. And I think what happens, I think that it's pure luck. I think what happens at a certain point, the algorithm goes, okay, well, we'll pump this one out. And so, you know, quite often I've seen, you know, channels that get 50, 60 views. Suddenly they're in the thousands. And this seems to happen over and over again. So I am in doubt about whether the algorithm actually does do anything or whether it just picks people out at random, gives them a chance. I mean, I'll be honest, I can't blame YouTube. You know, if people want to sit there and watch silly videos and they're millions just to pass the time of day, why should they promote my channel? It wouldn't make sense. So I do understand. But I'm a big believer that YouTube is very useful. It's very useful for learning things, passing knowledge on. And that's really why I started my channels. Only one of my channels has achieved anything, and that's this channel. And even so, the results have been sporadic. 200, 250 views maybe. To the point where I thought, well, I'm just going to give up. I've started quite a few businesses in my time. And they've been successful. But you tend to want to see some results reasonably quickly when you start a business. Otherwise, you could be wasting your money and your time. And unfortunately with YouTube, it seems to be a bit pot luck. So I was on the verge of giving up and perhaps looking at TikTok, Instagram, etc. And then I thought, well, I'll have one more stab. Really, because I've watched a couple of channels, particularly of older people, that have said now is the time. Now is the time to start your channel. And they seem to have done quite well. So I can only take on board what they say. So I haven't given up. But the one thing I have done is I've zoned in really on what I really want to talk about and what I want to pass on. Now, if nothing at all, this video would be great for my grandchildren. In years to come, they can perhaps look back and get an idea about what I was all about. But also, I think I've got some relevant stuff that needs to carry on. So I started to think, now what have I done? What have I done in my life that would be potentially interesting to somebody else out there? And I've had lots of jobs. I've been, let me see, well, I was a policeman for a long time. I've been a sales rep, I've been a financial advisor, I owned a restaurant, I owned a pub, I've done some property developing, I was a Zumba instructor, I was an instructor for Darcy Bustle's DD Mix. I'm still registered as such, but I haven't done any lessons for a long time. I was a hypnotherapist. So I've had quite a few jobs, and I have also been an Elvis impersonator and still do a bit here and there, but that was more by necessity. I'll tell you more about that when in another video, shall we say. It made me a lot of money, I have to say, but that's another story. So I thought I would probably try some videos telling stories. Now, I was in the police and I didn't do my full term, but I really enjoyed my time as a policeman. It was in the good old days when policemen were there to protect and to serve, to look after people. We had conscience and we did our very best to make sure that we looked after the public and protected. This was in the 70s, 80s. So it was very different. We used to walk around with our big hat on and say good morning to everybody, drink lots of tea, chat to anybody who's willing to chat, and deal with anything that was a problem. As a result, you know, you see things that other people probably would never see and would be horrified. So I've got probably about 30 stories which are in here, which are things that actually happened to me. They are true. Some of them you might find offensive, but in the 70s, 80s, it was a different time. Bearing in mind, as a police officer, you have to take everything in your stride. So whilst you might be horrified, I would ask you that if you're easily offended, then please don't watch this video. And don't comment, because I've given you fair warning. But these things happen, and so I think they should be logged, and you know, I think other people should know what it was all about. So I started to think about some of those experiences, and probably the funniest one, which is what I'm about to tell you, is a story, and it revolves around a death. You know, it's life and death. Death is a fact of life. As a police officer, you see it in many, many forms, and you hope that you don't see too much of it, but you know, sometimes you do, and you have to deal with it. You take it in your stride, and very often you will make fun, you will humorize it in order to get through your day. And so I make no apologies for the fact that this was probably not a very nice thing to do, but it happened. And, you know, I'm going to tell you that story and make of it what you want. But if you are easily offended, please don't listen. So, I was on duty one evening in a patrol car with a colleague of mine. Terry. I called him Terry because that's his name. And if you're out there, Terry, I'm sure you'll find this amusing. We were patrolling the area in Kent. I won't say exactly where. And we got a call to a property because an elderly gentleman who lived there hadn't been seen for quite a few days. It's the sort of call you don't really want to deal with because you know what's coming. So we went to the address, and it was an upper flat, 2-story building in flats. Lower floor was one flat, the upper floor was another, and it happened to be the upper floor. So we knocked on the door. No reply, although there was an odour emanating from the flat, which you could smell through the letterbox. So, we were pretty sure that all was not well. We went to the front of the building, looked up, and we saw that a bathroom window, a very small window, was open, and that it also had a larger window next to it, which was closed. And before I could say anything, Terry had shinned up this metal drain pipe, got onto the ledge of the window, and managed to put his arm through and unlock or undo the main window. And I was absolutely dreading the fact that if he fell down, he would certainly have hurt himself quite badly. But anyway, he disappeared into the bathroom, and I went back up the steps to the front door, waited patiently, and after a few minutes, the door opened, and Terry was there with a big grin on his face. In other words, mission accomplished. So anyway, we went in. There was a hallway with some doors to the right and the left. I went left. Terry went right into the front room. As I walked into the left-hand door, it was a bedroom, and straight away I saw the elderly gentleman, and he was dead. There was no doubt about it. There was no possibility of doing resus. He was quite obviously long time dead. He'd actually fallen out of bed and had got wedged between the bed and the bedside cabinet. So I called Terry in, and we managed to lift him up, put him on the bed, establish the fact that he was long gone, and unfortunately rigor mortis had started to set in. So his arms were stiff, his legs were stiff, so it was quite difficult to manoeuvre the body. And we put the clothes over, the bedclothes over the top, and they were sticking up like a tent, and we put him sideways and his arms were sticking out. So we knew that the son lived nearby, and we managed to find out his address. So Terry went to the address, and I said to him as he left, I said, right, I'll try and make him look as natural as possible while you go and get the son. So Terry departed. I sat there, stood there for a few minutes looking at the body with the arms sticking up in the air like this. And as I was looking, I looked on top of the wardrobe, and there was a suitcase, brown leather suitcase, and protruding from it was a saxophone. You're probably way ahead of me here. So I examined the saxophone, and his hands were sort of like this in front of him. And so, this is really bad now looking back in retrospect, but it's how you deal with death. I propped him up in the bed. I rested the saxophone in his hands. The doorbell went, and Terry had arrived with the son, so we took him through to the front room. And I said, Terry, I've got a few things I need to discuss with you before we do the identification. Come with me, see what you think. I let him go in front of me. And as he walked into the bedroom, I said to him, well, Terry, I thought what we could do is we just say that he passed away peacefully while he was playing his saxophone. And as he walked in, I went, like this. And Terry absolutely wet himself, as did I. And so after about 5 minutes of apoplectic laughter, we of course returned the saxophone to its case and made the gentleman look as presentable as possible before bringing in the son to do the identification. So, you know, all was well, nobody was hurt. That's how we dealt with it. For weeks afterwards, if I was in the nick and I happened to be walking past the radio, because in those days you had two radios, you had force headquarters and you had a local radio at the nick. If I was walking past the radio, I'd pick up the microphone and go do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and apparently no matter where Terry was or what he was doing, he couldn't help but have fits of laughter. Now, this may sound cruel, but it's true, and it's one way of dealing with death, which is, you know, not a good subject. So that's going to be story number one, the saxophone. Unfortunately, I've got dozens more that are probably worse, probably funnier, and I'll run through those if I get some views. But I appreciate the fact I'm probably going to be talking to myself and the 6 people that watch this, because it won't be promoted anywhere. But hey ho, that's life. I hope you've enjoyed. Please make sure you subscribe, otherwise you will not see another video, I'm quite sure, from me ever. You know, we'll see how we go. If there are any police officers out there that have similar stories, then please drop me a message, because obviously not everybody's in a position where they can relay these stories, and so ultimately they would be lost. That experience would be gone. So I'm quite happy to run through these, and I'll give you credit, on behalf of other officers that may have stories. I'm not the only one. I'm pretty sure we all have stories. So let me know, drop me a message, I'll contact you. You know, if you've got a story that you think people might be interested in, let's get it out there. Anyway, that's enough of me ranting. I've walked probably, I don't know, quite a way. It's still quite foggy. I'll see you in the next one. Take care now. God bless.